Jalen Hurts couldn't get it done. He couldn't operate from the pocket. He's not the quarterback of the future. I think he proved all those jigaboos wrong. And when you talk about other teams,
potential players are paraded out in front of scouts, coaches, and owners who measure their physical talent and on-field abilities. Coaches will tell you they're looking for warriors, killers, beasts. They say they want you to be an animal out there. And you want to give them that. But let me tell you something. What they don't want you to understand is what's being established is a power dynamic. Before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, and examine you, searching for any defect that might affect your performance. No boundary respected, no dignity left intact.
Come on, boy, hurry up. Look at that shape there. Look at this. Mr. Favre, I got your bid. 30, James, 30 to you. 100. So, next one coming up, best one we got. 500. 600. Right here. Look at this here. Come on, who wants this? 700. There we go now. What now? 1,000.
I'm telling you what I want.
Yeah, I heard you. So.
As a kid, you're not thinking that you're being groomed for a system. You just love playing football.
That's
I just don't believe that the league was never considering continuing the game.
I'm gonna keep it real. We in left field. We in left field. I'm kind of hot right now too. I'm kind of hot because we do this every freaking time something happened on this field. Everybody want to pivot and act like they. I done heard people talking about, just the mental health of the players, and yeah, you could die. They don't even know they could die out here. We sit here and talk about this stuff every single time. Schedule remakes, how we gonna make it up, what the league feels about it. I don't give a damn what the league feels about it. Let's keep it real. Why we don't talk about the stuff that matter? This young man, you wanna know how what this you need to know about him? He's 24 years old, right? He got a contract for $160,000. That's his bonus. And he earns $825,000 this year. You say, G. Bush, why are you talking about this man's money? Because guess what? He's been in the league 2 years. That means he's not vested. That means if he never plays another down in his life, he don't get another check for the NFL. Let's be clear about this. You got to play 3 to 4 years before you even sniff a pension. So all this heartwarming and prayers and condolences don't do nothing for that boy's mom that got to go home, look at her son, and he might need extensive care for the rest of his life. And you know what the NFL will tell you? Well, we'll look out for the people like him. No, you won't. No, you won't. Let's talk about the disability policy for the NFL, right? They moved it from $22,000 a month to $4,000 in the last collective bargaining agreement. Did you know that the NFL has a private board that reviews all aspects with their doctors and with their neurologists and their specialists? They can deny benefits even if Social Security deems you to be permanently disabled. The league can come back and then say, the government is they're experts, but let's take it over so we don't pay anything out. Only 15% get approved by Social Security. The league says that number should be lower. Get that. 15% of the people who apply for disability in this country, I know, I was a disability expert. It's very low. I submitted over almost 250,000 applications in 1 year one time. I know. Since the CTE settlement, only 6.5% of the settlement has been paid, according to the admin's website. I looked it up yesterday. And 60% of the claims have a qualifying diagnosis but have not been paid. Let's talk about this. They're also moving the pension. And that pension, he got to make it to 55. He's 24. And they've moved that between 3,000. They moved it down to 3,000 when it was 5,600 a month. And the last stat that you should know about is the Bills owner Terry Pagula owns the Sabres as well as the Buffalo Bills, and his net worth is $6.7 billion. My question to you is, NFL, when do salaries become guaranteed? If you know these young men are going out there and they could die on that football field, I don't give a damn what your thoughts and prayers are. Do the right thing. I just heard Aditi say it 7 times. This is a savage sport. Men are dying every week. And you covered that up during CTE, and now you want to act like you the top of the food chain because you got the CPR people on the field on time? That's the least you should do. You're not gonna pay that man's you're not gonna pay that man's tuition for his kids. You're not gonna give him no disability money. You don't do nothing. All you do is collect them big checks, and we go play fantasy footballs, and I hear these dudes' thoughts and prayers for a whole damn 2 hours. Y'all don't care about them kids. These young black kids is putting on the line. And you telling them what they put on the line ain't worth it because you know why? Because you don't want to pay for somebody that's broken and battered and can't take care of themselves because it costs you money. So it is all about money. And I ain't heard nobody talking about no contracts. And they sitting up here cashing these checks. We worship these owners. They do anything they want to. Anything. And as long as the product is good, we salute it. I'm pissed off today because ain't nobody talking about the real stuff. There's people out there, players are saying they just want to wait for us to die. I like the NFL just like the rest of y'all, but I'll be damned if I'm going to sit up there and pat Roger Goodell on the back for running this organization the way he does. They run it like a criminal organization. Sick of it. I'm tired of that, man. I just had to get that off my chest because all this stuff, you ain't talked about what this boy gonna go through. This kid could be damaged the rest of his life. And we talk about making up games. Care about making up no damn football games.
Bernie Kosar is the one that said that. You mentioned the player that said they're waiting for us to die. I thought about that conversation we had with Bernie on this very set about the league not properly taking care of these gladiators that have churned out billions of dollars for these owners. Yeah. And
part of that
Bernie
is honestly, part of it is a failure of the leadership of the players' union.
That historically has been a problem.
Do the right thing. It don't take you or you to twist my arm to do something I should be doing for my players regardless. Everything ain't a negotiation. You getting billions. You can die today. That's a sliver of these people just want basic health care. We talk about $4,000 a month, boo. They don't need no players association to do the right thing by their players. It's called do the right thing, period. You got it.
Before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, and examine you, searching for any defect that might affect your performance. No boundary respected, no dignity left intact.
Start paying out concussion-related damages to former players. They literally argue that black players should get less money because they had less mental capacity to lose. So you might be wondering like, yo, when was that policy a thing? The NFL had this policy in place up until 2021 after they were sued in a civil lawsuit. I need y'all to understand what this means, y'all. The NFL decided to give former players who were black less money in concussion settlements because they believed that black players or black people in general started with lower cognitive function, meaning that their presupposition was that black folks were inherently and genetically less intelligent than white folks, meaning that they felt that black folks were so stupid coming into the game that a concussion didn't impact them as much as a white person who to them was inherently more intelligent. So with black folks, they was basically like, oh, you failed that test after having a concussion? You was gonna fail it anyway because you're dumb. But with white folks, they were like, ooh, you failed that test after a concussion? You shouldn't have because you would have got an A. And when they started giving out money for these concussion settlements, white folks were qualifying for awards at 2 or 3 times the rate of black folks. Keep that in mind when you consider that the NFL wanted those players to go back on the field, but they refused.
Coach files a lawsuit claiming racial discrimination in the NFL coaching hiring process.
Otis Livingston joins us now, and this is a blockbuster, Otis.
It certainly is. A bombshell lawsuit released within the hour against the NFL and various teams, including the New York Giants, from former Miami Dolphin head coach and Brooklyn native Brian Flores, claiming racial discrimination in the hiring processes of head coaches. Flores was interviewed by the Giants for their head coaching position, but that job went to Brian Daboll, who was introduced yesterday. Now, Flores filed the suit in the Southern District of New York this afternoon. In it, he includes texts he alleges are from New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick, demonstrating that the Giants conducted an interview with Flores while knowing they already intended to hire Daboll as the head coach. The suit alleges that the Giants interviewed Flores simply to satisfy the NFL's Rooney Rule mandate requiring that teams interview minority candidates. Now,
what should have been an exciting time for the NFL leading up to next week's Super Bowl has turned out to be a week of headlines about racial inequality in the league's upper ranks after recently fired Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores filed a class action lawsuit alleging racial discrimination in the league's hiring process. The suit sparked a lot of discussion about the discrepancies between who calls the plays and who executes them. And this is a case where the numbers just don't lie. Here's obviously the makeup of the league. 70% of the league is made up of players of color. It's pretty clear. Now look at the distinction of head coaching ranks. See, 70% of the players are of color. 3 out of 32 head coaches right now are of color. 26 of the current head coaches, so there's still some vacancies, belong to white men. Now let's take a look at why this is. For the last 10 years, the NFL has tried. They've had the Rooney Rule. The league has tried to encourage these owners to essentially do better. They've not required it. They've kind of coerced. Well, they haven't done so well. Among head coaches in the last decade, there's been 51 white head coaches, just 11 of color. General managers, the ratio is about as poor. 31 overall, just 6 of color over the last decade. And if you look on the coordinator level, among offensive coordinators in particular, it's a terrible ratio. And guess what? It's offensive coordinators that are suddenly getting all of the head coaching hires these days. It's slightly better among defensive coordinators still, though, 2-to-1 basically, white to non-white when it comes to those there. And then look at coaches overall. One of the problems here for coaches of color is they don't have family ties in the league. Of the 792 coaches, basically more than 10% of them have relatives, are related to other coaches in the NFL. And look at it among head coaches. A third of NFL head coaches are related to other coaches. As you know, one of the coaches is the grandson. In the Super Bowl this year is the grandson of a former NFL.
I'm not going to their team. If anything, you know, whoever like me at quarterback, that's where I'm going.
Y'all remember this?
If a team did ask you to do that, would you do it?
No, sir, I'm a quarterback.
When the stereotype persisted.
I'm tired of hearing the NFL castigated as some sort of bigoted league that is inferior to the NBA in terms of racial progress. Just like Patrick Mahomes, the NFL is the gold standard.
I pump the brakes, Whitlock.
You never see someone push the rest of the team as hard as I would push everybody the rest of the season.
Nope, not there.
Number one's going to surprise some people. Which one, though, was going to be the question? I'm going to go Josh Allen from Wyoming.
Not there either.
It's about your ability to run the football. When I look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, I'm looking at a guy that's rushed for over 1,500 yards in 2016.
My only concern about Lamar Jackson is not deadly accurate. Mechanics are not what you'd call pretty mechanics.
No, sir, I'm a quarterback.
Nobody makes a living in the National Football League at 213 with the ball in his hands every play.
The NFL is not the gold standard, as Jason Whitlock implies. It continues to struggle in one glaring area every single year.
I've always been a team-first guy, but I think I'm a quarterback. I think that's that.
And Jalen Hurts is the latest casualty on the long list of black quarterbacks having their character disparaged and criticized for, as Terrell Pryor said, playing quarterback their whole lives. Cam Newton was described as fake and selfish. Cardell Jones, compared to Jamarcus Russell, was labeled not the brightest cookie in the world. Geno Smith, not a student of the game. Deshaun Kaiser, diva. Jalen Hurts took Alabama to the title game, transferred to Oklahoma, was a Heisman runner-up, threw for 3,851 yards and 32 touchdowns with 1,298 rushing yards and 20 more touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, there's a history of NFL teams demanding black quarterbacks switch positions at this time of year. In 1933, the NFL secretly decided to ban black players, reportedly at the behest of former Washington owner George Preston Marshall, a committed segregationist. The ban was rooted in the widespread racist beliefs about black inferiority that underpinned segregation, that whites assumed that African Americans lacked the physical stamina and emotional courage to excel. Though the ban was lifted 13 years later, African American quarterbacks were almost non-existent.
I knew it wasn't going to be a level playing field.
Let me introduce you to Marlon Briscoe, the AFL's first black quarterback. Racism was running rampant in 1968, but the more they did to me, the tougher I got, he said. Drafted in the 14th round in 1968 by Denver, he knew the Broncos wanted to play him elsewhere, so he demanded a tryout at quarterback. He got the audition, but not the job. Bad quarterback play plagued Denver and Briscoe, who threw 14 touchdowns in 5 games, a Broncos rookie record. He got the opportunity, but never played the position again.
George Taliaferro could really be considered the Jackie Robinson of college football, and certainly pro football. Was the first black player ever drafted.
George Taliaferro was a legend, making 3 Pro Bowls, but only as a rusher and receiver who never completed more than 16 passes in a season. When Lamar Jackson was a prospect, one NFC scout told BR, his tape speaks volumes, but staffs can't see beyond their biases. He's black and athletic. Bias tells you he has to prove to you that he is smart enough. And if he can't, he's more valuable somewhere else because he's athletic. Lamar has to be twice as good, both mentally and physically, and he still can get Deshaun Watson. My fellow Jews have a saying, l'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. Throughout the history of pro football, black quarterbacks have been marginalized. They have been bashed. They have been disenfranchised from the position by the mainly white gatekeepers in the National Football League from succeeding. While there has been a breakthrough, the initial radical process is being displayed in plain sight with 21-year-old Jalen Hurts, adding his name to the roster of pre-draft racial coding these gatekeepers employ and over time remain stuck in the past.